project, and then there's the kind of, what we thought might be interesting also to talk about tonight is also the shape of journalism that we're evolving in our collaboration, because that was something that became very apparent when we were working together. Sebastian said, if you look at the overall tentacles of the project, you know, sure, and as a photographer, I'm very aware that the context is everything as well, and you know, and so on the one hand, my work, say in Vanity Fair, is seen as a photojournalist. Yet I can also make, you know, my work is also collected as prints, as fine art prints. So it works all the way between, you know, images work depending on their context between photojournalism and fine art. And I think it's incredibly, it passes its kind of limitations of how we perceive one another. I mean, Facebook shows you that you can be, or social media shows you nowadays that you don't have to, that we are multiple persons. We are a different person to our parents or our children as we are to our friends, and that these, you know, the privacy settings there on Facebook show that. And I think what's interesting with what Sebastian and I are evolving is this kind of real transmedia journalism, where, you know, where our roles are also pretty interchangeable sometimes. I mean, you know, Sebastian we both filmed the documentary with Strepo. So out of the project, obviously, as Sebastian said, came the multiple trips to Vanity Fair, where our roles were fairly distinct. He's the writer and I'm the photographer. And yet that collaboration, we're interested both in the politics and the thinking and the stories, so we're continually batting that around. And then we start, so we're doing that and funding the trips through the assignments of Vanity Fair. Then we were also shooting video footage for ABC News, and we did 2 nightline pieces. And then we decided that there's a limitation of what you can actually do when a TV channel wants to put together a documentary. It has a certain format, and we realized that the only way to make the documentary was to finance it ourselves and retain complete editorial control, so that we could put all the swearing in and stay true to the soldiers. So we could, you know, run it, we envisioned it as a theatrical film, not as a kind of documentary lecture, something that was much more nuanced than the kind of films that might be formatted. And it's great that National Geographic Channel came on board at the end, bought the finished film, and are now willing to run it with, you know, in its kind of in the format that we designed for it. But we made the theatrical film, and then, you know, we both made our books. And I guess in my photo book, it's different from the kind of work that was appearing. When I first made the photographic work, I got the Coronwall, you know, I'm there for Vanity Fair, and I'm thinking, you know, I was completely shocked. We were both shocked by the amount of fighting that was going on. I mean, it was, the world was focused on Iraq, and suddenly here we were in Afghanistan, and the war had slipped out of control. So the first set of images that I'm making are very much showing people that are kind of reminiscent of kind of Vietnam, Larry Burroughs-esque kind of photography that's like, here, this is the Capra-esque, you know, war photography that grabs people's attention in the newspapers and magazines. But after a while, I kind of got, and not belittling the fighting, but I got pretty bored of that, and then wanted to make a kind of a visual work that, say, stretched the vocabulary of war photography a little bit more, and something that was much more nuanced and intimate, and showed how the war machine isn't, in fact, as we like to present it as normally in the media, as kind of bombs and missiles and tanks that actually attack helicopters. It's actually the war machine is take a group of young men, you know, train them together, put them on the side of a mountain, and they will kill and be killed for each other. And that is something that we desanitize, in our desire to desanitize war, we actually dehumanize these young men, which is actually doing them a disservice. And I wanted to rehumanize that and show that at the heart of the war machine, we actually take these young men, you know, and we instrumentalize them for our own our needs, the society's needs, and we should recognize that. And then I made an art installation. But I just want to, I'll show some images in a second, but one of the things that also was to go on this kind of, the way that Sebastian and I have been working is that, you know, we're both shooting the video in the Coronwall, and making these different things. And what was really amazing was then taking Restrepo, the film, and putting it out there, and creating, like on Facebook, you know, the movie kind of site. We produced Restrepo, the movie website, which now hosts the Sal Junta story, you know, because Sal was a soldier out of the Coronwall who was awarded the Medal of Honor yesterday. But we also, we built this Facebook site. And we have, again, it's something I don't think you could have done you know, 10 years ago, which was to have this incredible dialogue with our audience, where you are held accountable, and that is really interesting. You know, and I'll give you a really good a way that those things can happen. For instance, when Infidel came out, you know, certain people were not happy with some of the images in it, and I was thinking, because there were some images that I was trying to be as honest as possible about the work out there, and there were some images of pin-up girls in the book. That was the kind of thing the soldiers have around them. I mean, obviously they're on their own on the side of the mountain for a year. And somebody wrote back and was complaining about it, and then the actual soldiers were getting on the Facebook page and defending that and saying, no, we want that in. This is our reality. You know, accept it. This is how it is. And so it was really interesting that then there were certain things that we didn't have, that conversation then starts to evolve and take place. And the Facebook page became this incredible, has become this incredible site that continues this day, you know, as new things come out and we bolt on, like the Sal Junta story bolts into it. We will have a conversation about that. And, you know, it's then really interesting that, say, with the Sal Junta piece, was to go to the networks and say, you know, hey, you know, we're doing this piece, you know, we know Sal really well. I went out to Italy to interview him, we have the footage from the Coron Wall, and offer them the piece, and yet they didn't want it because it wasn't going to be formatted in a way that they wanted, or it doesn't have really doesn't have the personalities that they pay a lot of money for to present it, is what happened. The people wanted to buy the verite footage, but they didn't want our interview because it wasn't by the kind of the highly paid anchors. And so they wanted to actually try and kill that interview, because it was a very authentic interview. And it wasn't theirs. And Sebastian and I were like outraged. We were like, this is kind of crazy. This is everything we don't believe in. The fact that we, you know, this is about information and the freedom of information and the freedom of you, the public, to see that and access it. So we actually ended up just producing ourselves and putting it out there as a test to see how is our relationship with this audience that we have started through the film going. You know, and so far it's like, you know, we've had, you know, size of, I mean, we're getting over 100,000 unique viewers, and that's to see a kind of, you know, 14, 15-minute piece. And that's growing, and although that seems 100,000, it's probably 150,000 by the end of today, although that doesn't seem a lot when you compare it to, say, I don't know, 3 million for one of the broadcasters, it's still significant in terms of we know that technology is just now an exponential growth. We know the direction that technology is taking us, and the very fact that without the middleman we can produce stuff and put it out there is kind of really interesting and exciting.